Hello there and welcome to my arty corner of YouTube. My name's Angela and I'm now an artist. I was a science teacher for 28 years, but now I developed a skill and an interest and a love of art during the latter few years of my teaching career, and I had the opportunity to do artwork for adult colouring books. I took it and I left teaching, which is a potted history. There's more to it than that, but best thing I ever did, perhaps in hindsight, even though at the time it wasn't quite as easy or pleasant as you might think, but that's a whole different story. But I draw every day, whether it's for business or pleasure, doesn't matter. They're both the same, mostly for me. So, but here, this is sheer pleasure, and it's because even though I don't teach in a school anymore, there's still a part of me that's a teacher and wants to help people to learn, to grow and to develop, and also to find some self-confidence and an ability, that belief in themselves that you can do this, and that the way you do it is perfectly fine for the way you do things. You're expressing yourself, and that's not wrong. It might not be to everybody's taste, but then is anything artistic and creative to everybody's taste? Even when it comes down to food. I find avocados disgusting, and yet so many people seem to love them. There we go. It's personal taste. So, lots of things are avocados to me. I also love Marmite. If you don't know what Marmite is, it's a yeast extract, and it's quite thick. And I love it on toast. I particularly love it on toast with banana on top because it's salty, it's very savoury, and it's said that you either love it or hate it, and it's true. And I love Marmite, or any kind of yeast extract. Marmite's my favourite because other brands I've tried just haven't got that kick. So must remember to put it on my list because I'm nearly out of Marmite shopping list. But anyway, so it's often the same with other creative things, or sometimes you think, yeah, it's okay, but I might not do it again, and that's fine. So if you enjoy what I do and you've subscribed, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here, and a big welcome to my new subscribers. Again, you're very welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying what I'm doing and you find some value in it. And as I said, I like to share things to help people draw for themselves, talk about ways of thinking about art, and importantly, me finding out how I think about art, because my thinking isn't always in words, and it's strange. I don't have an inner monologue other than one that's my inner critic that tells me how rubbish I am, but I mostly ignore that one. But anything else I just not aware of in terms of words, so this forces me to talk about what's going on. So anyway, with no further ado, other than to say, if you like what you see, please do subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you enjoy a video, please give it a thumbs up. Okay, it really does help, because it'd be nice. I'm beginning to understand it'd be nice for my channel to grow so that I can encourage as many people and help as many people just enjoy art for the sake of art. That's all I'm going to say. It'd be nice. So share the videos. Brilliant. You help me out hugely that way. All right then. So my last video, I was exploring some arches, and I'd got this far on the page. This I did not long ago, and I was looking on tanglepatterns.com, which is run by Linda Farmer, who's a CZT, and one of the new tangles, or because every week there's a few new tangles come up on the home page. And this was one of them, Kruffle, but I messed up drawing it first time, got it the second, and then I did some more, and then I was talking about stuff, and I completely gave away whereabouts I live and everything. I try to be as cautious as I can here, but I did it. So rather than edit out that bit, because I'm useless at editing, I thought, right, we'll start again and do a better job of it. Oh, this page, by the way, there's an old book page on the back here, just glued down with some kind of glue or other. I think it's tacky PVA glue I used. Sealed it in with a layer of gesso, I've shown gesso in a previous video. I used layers of Necolor and gesso on the top to achieve this sort of like softly, well, it's quite pastel-y, isn't it? Sort of rainbowish background. And sealed it with gesso on the top so that I can draw on it, because Neocolors tend to be a bit slick to draw on. They're nice, but I worry about the health of the pen nibs, the fine liners I use. I wreck them quickly, but I don't need to make them get destroyed quicker because of what I'm drawing on. And this page, I think I might try this one. I did the same thing. It's using some old book pages that I tore into pieces this time and sort of like stuck them down one on top of the other. I then sealed all of that with some white gesso. I used white gesso, so as I did in the other one, to knock back the printing on the page. I want it there more as a background texture rather than people going, oh, what does that say? And then I put some rusty red oxide coloured Inktense on as the first layer. Sealed that with gesso, I think, if I remember rightly. Yes, I did. And in places I hadn't hit the back of the page with gesso very much, and the colours really sunk in and coloured the paper. And I've got this wonderful texture here. I really like this, so I've got to remember how I did that and use it again. And then I used soft blues and sort of like turquoises and so on, and to get sort of like a feeling of rustiness or verdigris going on, corrosion, and then sealed it with a layer of clear gesso followed by dry brushing of white gesso just to give it this dusty chalky feel. Yeah, but it's not chalk and it's not dusty. So let's have a look at this pattern. It's called Kruffle. I'll put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to be very conscious if I start telling a story about mentioning where I live or not, preferably not. And this is called Kruffle, and I will write it again here, Krffle, and it is by Kelli King. This could be a challenging surface to work on. I was thinking when I was talking about this in the video that's now deleted, how fun it would be to use each of these little sections of paper to detangle in or in between them or whatever. So, but not today. And it's not my kind of way of working, but I see people who do things like this and their work is beautiful. Just never feels right when I do it, perhaps because it's not what I'm meant to be doing. Oh, Kelli King CZT. Let's make sure she gets her CZT in there, is it? Okay, so the first step in this tangle pattern is to draw a line, and it can be straight, it can be wobbly, it can be any way you like. The next thing is to draw little, well, they're round arches that we're going to fill in with blacks. They look like little beetles without heads, headless beetles. Now I'm getting macabre. Alternating above and below the line. And I will fill them in black, because one of the things I worked out when I was drawing the other examples I've done is that I quickly got confused in the next steps of this if I hadn't coloured them in. And this really does help you sort this pattern out and get it right. I've done it in black. You could use patterns to do it, whatever makes you comfortable with this. So the next step is to aura the ones on the top. Yes, the ones on the top. And it's not critical, but try to land somewhere in between the humps on the line. Then we're going to join them around the lower humps. So it's the line we've just drawn. We're going to go around that lower hump and aura it and connect to the other line at the top. So this goes around like this. It creates a wonderful kind of disconnect. It's almost like you've split the the paper that these are drawn on in half and slid it along, and I quite like that. I find that quite fun. Okay, so the next step is to take the edge of one of the bottom beetles over the top of the top one and down and connect it there. So you can see from this corner of this one to this corner here. And we're going to do that right the way along. That one's a bit close for me for comfort. And I will do this one as well here because that will finish that one off nicely. And then we need to do the same with the beetles on the top half of the central line and connect them going around the bottom one like this. And we get this lovely kind of pattern that goes like this. And perhaps I'll just pop a little beetle on there and we can just go around and finish it off there like that. So that's already quite nice. That's lovely as it is, but I just happen to think that auraing this just gives that little bit of a finish to this section here. I like it as it is, but there's just something nice about adding an aura. And here's me worried about drawing on top of all of these bits of paper, getting my pen caught up or creating odd lines. It seems to be working just fine. So there, lovely way to make a new background. If you want me to demonstrate how I do this in a video, then just leave a comment. Drop me a comment. Sorry, I was off the screen for the last bit, but it's more of the same. So that works really nicely. And this would look fantastic as a border around a page. It would look great, sort of like looping around things. It would be quite fun. And it would also, with increasing, sort of like auras, it would almost morph really nicely into diva dance. Perhaps I'll do that a bit on the edge here, is it? So perhaps I'll put another aura in there. And let's fill the bottom bits with black, like you would with diva dance. Didn't do a very good job there of distancing that little bit. I'm having trouble today. So let me just have this one. So I've got a starting place. And perhaps have a little bump there. And perhaps a little one there. Perhaps a little one just there. And then we'll aura this in diva dance fashion. And then we can add some bumps along the way for the next aura. But it would sort of kind of transition from one to another quite nicely. So let's have a look. And where you put the bumps will change the shape of this aura line. And that's the lovely thing about diva dance, is that random. I guess you could plan it if you wanted to, but I quite like it turning out to be quite random and not quite knowing what's going to happen. You can make the bumps in the diva dance as big or as small as you like. As many or as few as you like on each round. And I do like to fill these, every now and again, is just to fill these deeper areas in as well with some ink. Because I just think that helps with flattening this out a bit so it doesn't become too lumpy and, too hilly. Especially if you want to transition into a a flatter kind of pattern. I say flatter, you know, more linear is what I should say. Oh, no, I'm pressed there. So, right, okay, my fears about using so let me just have a look. Let's just see if we can get this almost completely. Well, it's not going to be completely flat. It could be, though, if I... There we go. So we'll have one big one there. And so it's kind of morphed from that into Diva Dance in quite a nice way. I like that. Of course, if I go to the other side, instead of Diva Dance, I could put some more of these in there. Actually, I think I might like to just pop it larger there. And then just... How many auras have we got above this? We've got 1, 2, 3. So if we do another one, there's a third one. And it's like we've got another version of this just peeking out from underneath. And you can just keep building on that. And it's... keep going and going and finish off with an aura or two. That's actually quite nice because that really does give lots and lots of layers. I had this going in a variation on the other page, which I'll do with you. I do tend to do this a lot in sketchbooks where I start the pattern, keep it as it is originally, but then along the same line do these variations and changes. And as long as I've got something that tells me how you can construct it, or the names, so I can refer, excuse me, back to it, then I'm quite happy with that. So this black, I was worried about this background being too dark, but it actually is perfectly fine. Using white highlight on this is going to be fantastic, though. The white gel pen will really shine. I might do some of that in a moment. So let's have a look. So I'm going to take this. Now these arches are quite, you know, quite wide. So what happens if we make them quite tall and thin? And I am taking the time here to fill these in with black. If you remember, I said that I found it really hard to construct this without the blackness of these bumps to guide me. I was getting confused with what line goes where and everything. On the face of it, it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes what seem to be really simple tangle patterns are the most challenging, and yet ones that look really complicated seem to just fall into line. Have you ever found that? Though I do have trouble with some of the complicated ones. And sometimes I just can't get a pattern until I watch somebody else do it. And it may be one person who does it and they explain it, or they do it in a way and suddenly something clicks, and everybody else I've watched, it just makes no sense to me whatsoever. So that's the foundation of this pattern. And the first step is to aura these here. So we want to go about halfway between them, like so. And here I will do a half one, and here a half one. Then we go around the bottom and we connect the lines that we've just drawn around the dark area at the bottom. We're essentially creating a kind of sinusoidal wave, but instead of drawing it all in one go, we're kind of splitting it up. Sinusoidal is this kind of shape, these nice ups and downs, the evenness. It's called sinusoidal science. It said you can take the scientist, the science teacher out of a school, out of teaching, but you can't take the scientist out. It's true. So I'm just finishing that off with halves of these. So the next step is to connect these upper dark arches. I'm getting sinister and macabre now. We have dark arches. And we go around the bottom ones in this kind of way. And then we need to do the same with the upper, or to connect the lower ones by going up and over the top like that. It's the same pattern, but just by varying the size or the length and the width of this inner one, we get a completely different feel to this. This reminds me very much of 1970s wallpaper. So I'm going to aura this one as well. But I know I'm not going to get all the way down the bottom neatly. So I'm stopping towards the top, and I'm also putting a little square or flat bottom on these. Excuse me. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom bits. Now there is a reason for me doing this. Excuse me. I'll be back in a mo. Okay, sorry about that. I had an attack of the coughs. It's like Attack of the Clones, but without stormtroopers. Well, no stormtroopers there. Anyway, I digress. So, sorted, hopefully. Okie dokes. So I've just done the aura around this one, but I'm going to use this kind of idea, but in a slightly different way. Or I haven't done it. I haven't finished the bottom one. I just spotted that. And I think it's the lower edge of this I'm going to work, so you can see what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put some more of these shapes like this, these long, thin black shapes here, and I will finish the edge off. Like so, and again, I'm going to fill these in with black, just for that contrast and drama. I do enjoy exploring patterns that are new to me. Well, actually, and old ones. It's my kind of thing, or one of the things I like to do. Because you never know where it's going to lead you, and you always find new things. Well, I think you do. The possibilities are there. And yeah, you can make a mess. And even here where I messed up, actually I thought I'd messed up, but I don't think I have. I think I drew it in a different way and I ended up at the same point. It's because I haven't got the black humps on. Yeah, typical. Just realised that. You can find new patterns or new things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to aura these. If nothing else, it lets you practice your penmanship or your, it's drawing practice. It's, using skills, practicing using a pen. because like everything else, it's all about hand-eye coordination, muscle memory. And the more you do, the more easier you find it to do similar things. So here, I auraed in between these now. So I'm going to go back to the these arches with the dark bits in between. I'm going to aura those again. And then I'm going to aura in between them. So what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to build up a kind of weaving here. No, I haven't messed up. My mind had wandered to something else. And when that happens, I can get confused about what I'm doing. So it's just this pattern. It's the back and forth of the long arches, the space in between. This is very much like a Rukas. It's a variation of a Rukas by Zentangle themselves. And you get this lovely woven arrangement of shapes. And it creates a lot of dimension, even without any shadow, which is fabulousness. I think so. Now I've got to a stage here where that inner section is teeny tiny. So what I could do is add another layer of these. I'm not going to do it all the way along because we've seen this, but perhaps I'll do some. Perhaps just do half of it so you can see the difference. You can just keep on going. And of course, this could be done on the other side there. So again, it's that weavingness. I'm talking utter rubbish here. There's weird words coming out of my mouth. And that is just simply because I'm focusing on the art, on drawing. Oh, excuse me a moment. Okay, that was one of those phone calls. You answer it, and as soon as you answer it, it goes dead. So that'll be another number to block. Honestly. So I think you may be getting the idea here of what's going on. And it's rather, I could just keep doing this and fill a whole area with this kind of thing. I really do love this kind of weaving that's going on. But I'll leave it there for now. So that is really quite fun. It's quite Art Deco, I think. Because of course I can't remember what I was talking about before the phone went. So hence why I may have started on something else. So what about other shapes here? Well, of course. So we've got, how about some triangles, which are just pointy arches, really, seriously pointy arches. And for this one, I'm just going to shade this in rather than filling it in completely with black. I'll do that at a later date. So to do this, the first job is to aura the ones at the top. Then we connect those auras around the ones underneath. Then we start connecting the darker areas together around that aura below that we've just joined in. And then it's a case of connecting the ones at the top like so. And that's that done. So we get a pointy wave instead. And I will aura this. Like so. And perhaps I'll put some of these down underneath so that I can aura around like this. And we've got the opportunity of perhaps putting other triangles in here, putting a wider aura around and so on. The same kind of thing, which is quite fun. You just pop some cross hatching in these just to darken these up a bit. I've got a bit of paper there that's lifting, which is fine. So I'll go down that side now. Oops, that way, and there. Okay, so we've got that. Other shapes, because it's always fun to explore. What about a teardrop shape would be kind of this shape. What about a kind of like a heart, but it's like the point of the heart goes underneath the edge of the paper. Shall we see what happens with this? And I will just scrappily colour this in. I cannot do that. Can't. Okay, let's look for it. Oh, brill. There we go. This is no 06. These are Sakura Pigma Sensei pens, and they're for manga art, and they have the same Pigma ink in them as the Microns do, but the nibs are quite different. So this 06 is a fibre tip, like a felt pen, but a bit sturdier perhaps. So you get a really thick line. So it is 06, not 0.6. Okay, so it's really broad. I guess it says it says 0.6 millimeters. But if you had that in a micron, it'd be a much finer line, I think. But a broader nib fills these areas in so quicker. There we go. That's better. I could have done the triangles at the same time, couldn't I? So again, it's that case of starting from about halfway, auraing the upper shapes, then using this aura to go around the lower shape, bearing in mind that you have to kick it out like this. You follow the line shape there. Then we start to join the upper black hearts together. And yet these might get a little bit close together, the lines, but that's fine. It's how the pattern's going to work. And then it's that final aura. And again with this one, I'm not even going to try to get the lines right down to the bottom. I'm going to leave them exactly as they are. So this would be connected to half a heart, wouldn't it? Like so, perhaps. And we can aura this one to give us this. So the same kind of idea, but using a different shape. So any shape you can think of would work along this line, is what I want to say. A lot of fun, lots of possibilities. And also, once you've all got these auras in, I can show you with this one, because there's quite a gap, is that I've got a chance here to pop another aura. Like so. I'll just pop a heart there, half a heart, and then do the same around the lower hearts. So you can, if you've got broad enough spaces, split them into finer auras. Using a finer pen would help there, but I think that's quite a lot of fun. So we've got that. I will colour this heart in with this pen. It does work quite nicely. So for the inner arches, I've used solid black, but any of these arches that are filled in, if you want to make this pattern big and bold, you could use these as the infill. You'd have to think carefully about how you join them together. So let's have a look at how I do that, just in case you want to have a go at doing this. So I'm only going to do a small-ish design here. So I'm going to put some large arches in here, and I'm going to leave a fairly large gap between them, and then I'm going to fill these in with pattern perhaps. What shall I do? I'll do something quite simple and quite quick. Let's fill them in with how about this kind of pattern. So it's going that way, so I want it to go this way here and here, here, and then in the middle I'm just going to fill it in with black. I could fill that in with pattern as well. It's not really too important. I'm doing this more to show you how I would tackle using a more complicated starting pattern than these. So the first job is to aura these, except I've already got the aura in place, haven't I? Have I got, yeah, I've done that right. So let's do it as if treat these as one, as the whole of that black art, bit. So I'll want to aura here, around here, and around there. Yeah, because we start by auraing over the top and then going around the bottom to join them together. I've just done it in one movement rather than separating it out. So now the next step is to start connecting the inner black bit with the inner black bit here, but we've got these other auras around it. So let's start from the outside of this arch and start to connect these up. We'll do this one and it will connect there. So this one will go down and round, this one will go down and round, as will that one. And then we've got this area here which will go down and round, as will this one, and connect back there. And I'm off the screen, I'm sorry. And this one here. So all I've done is I've started with the outermost part of this original arch, and gone this way and around this way to connect here. And then I've done the next one and then the next one in. Oops, I've just made a right pig's ear there. It'll be fine. So I'll show you with this one. I'm going to start with the outermost part of this patterned arch and go up and around the outermost pattern of this upper arch, of this lower arch. Next line in, and we'll aura that, trying to keep the distance fairly consistent around, and then it's that black area in between. So we get a different kind of pattern here of arches. We've got a lot more lines going on. If we look back here, there's just two sort of auras before we add the final outer aura. Here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. So, but 3 of those came from that inner arch. So I do like that. So you can get as complicated as you like about it. It's just sticking to some basic rules in the order you do things. The reason I started from the outside of the arch and worked forward was because if I started with the black bit, I'd then have the problem of trying to fit these in neatly within that space. This isn't neat because I was drawing backwards to how I'd normally draw an arch. But here, it's a lot easier if you start with this one and then go around you're always auraing outside the line you're drawing, is what I'm trying to say. And of course we can fit an aura in round that, a final aura. So let me just do that. Keep it on screen if I can. So I'm just going to pop this final aura in. So I feel it just finishes off this area quite nicely. You don't have black butting up against the very next pattern you may put in, which I'm not a fan of. But if you like it, by all means. So these are all Kruffle variations, each and every one of them. How would I add shadow to these? Oh, now there's a $6 million question, isn't it? Looking for some kind of media to do that with, that I got easy to hand and would work quite easily. Tell you what, let's grab, I've got a chalk pastel here and I'm going to use this on the gesso because it should work quite nicely on gesso actually. The gesso should grab it so it doesn't move so far. What I'm doing here with this one is I'm putting little bits of shadow right at the top part of these lines. So I'm going to get shadowing going on underneath where they overlap. So each end of these U shapes, I've added some shadow. And for these bands in between at each end, so we've got that shadowing, leaving a highlight in the middle. Actually, this is really lovely to work on the gesso. And I can do that all the way across. So each end of these horizontal, bands, and then each end of the top of these U shapes. And then I'm just going to blend it out using a tortillon here. I won't do it all, but I'll do enough that you get the idea of what we're doing here. And it creates these little dark crevices on either side that lift things towards the top, as it were. And for this little bit here, I'm just using what's on there. So that really does bring out that sense of dimension, doesn't it? And if I carry on underneath here, And we'll get a full feeling for this section perhaps. This is what I really love, is this play with dimension, with space, the illusion of things being not two-dimensionally flat, because they are. You know, we're drawing with pen on paper, it's 2 dimensions, really. And just by using shadow, we suddenly create this illusion of 3-dimensionality, of volume to it. And it always amazes, you know, as often as I do it, it's still one of those things where I just smile when I've done it, when it all works and it all comes together. I just find it just one of the most pleasing things I can do. Even though I'm not a fan of adding shadow, I much prefer to do it with chalk pastel than graphite. And here I've used, it is a bluey grey or a purpley grey pencil, which actually ties in with the background quite nicely. So that works really nicely, doesn't it? It's hard to believe, isn't it, that it's flat? And I think I might just pop some shadow on either side of these. I think that might work. Let's have a look and see. I really like this on gesso, like that. That does give some feeling that this is above, this area is above this, but I think I might just, let's have a look and add some shadow on either side of these. So it's almost like we're alternating where the shadow is along that line. So it's every, you know, we're doing it around the black areas, but then we're leaving one that isn't in shadow. Let's see how that works. Because I am creating a pattern there with the shadow. Oh, that has things moving in a really fantastically weird way, doesn't it? I like that. That appeals to my sensibilities. And around the top here, I think I'm just going to add some shadow around it. Not all the way around, but I'm going to put the shadow mostly in this middle bit. And then I can just ease it around. You can see how it's not getting into some of the nooks and crannies of the texture of the paper I've added. That adds some interest. There we go. So that works really nicely. Now the question is, do I have in here somewhere, I have a white charcoal pencil here. So let's add some white highlights. I'm going to add highlights at the top of these arches and the bottom of these ones. Right, I'm going to have to find another tortillon to use because I want one that's clean, so excuse the rustling of the paper. The only ones I've got that are clean are enormous, but they'll do. It'll do. So let's just get some of this and work it in. Because the gesso's got a lot of tooth, that once it's worked in, it should stay where you put it. I say should. I'm never too sure about this. But that does bring quite a bit of, you know, enough highlight there to make a difference, I think. And of course, down the bottom here, you really can get that highlight going to really bring some sparkling white around the edges here. I'm trying to put a lot of this down, really pushing hard and getting firmer with it as I'm working with it, because I know I need to get a fair amount of the white down and try and work it into the gesso, so that when I use this paper stump, hopefully we'll get some remaining in the paper rather than rubbed away, because it does seem to want to rub away if I don't work it in. So let's have a look at that and see what that does. Have I got harder ends? And yeah, this end's a bit harder, so. Now I've put it over the black pen. That's okay. So that if I wanted to, I could go back over with the black pen, but I don't think I need to. Possibly. Let me have a look quickly and see if that makes much of a difference. So let me just go back over the black pen where the white chalk has gone over it. Actually, it most probably would need it everywhere, because all the chalk tends to dull the black down. You need to be quite careful when you're doing this. And yes, it does take a little bit of time, but I think it, you know, looking at it, it's worth it because it brings that structure back out. Why I prefer gel pens. Don't have to do so much of this. But you get the idea. And this line down here is actually the paper. It's where the paper's lifted. So that does make a difference. We can see that these areas compared to this one. But I could also have done that with, find my pencil case again. Where's my pencil case? Over here. Because instead of white chalk, I could have used white gel pen, and I know this white gel pen won't pick up any colour from underneath because it's sealed in by the gesso. But I can also put the white gel pen on top of the white charcoal just to add that extra bit of whiteness in there. So it's another way to add some brightness if you don't want to use the white charcoal or you don't have it. I sort of tried it, but I think I'd much prefer the white gel pen, to be honest with you. I like the chalk pastel for the shadows though, I can happily say that. Okay, looking at the time, this is a long video again. So let's have a look at how we can mess with space here. I'm going to add shadow on one side of this dividing line on this one and blend this out and see what happens then. So I'm blending it out and around. Now the chalk pastels I'm using for information only are Carbothellos from Stabilo. They're actually water soluble as well, or there's water soluble pigments, dye pigments in there, or dye particles in there. And so you can use a wet brush with them and the insoluble bits will stay where you put them, but you can actually move the colour out as well. So that gives this a feeling of being bent a little bit. So I think I will put some on the other side, but not as much perhaps, and just get that shadow almost like it's creased here, folded. So that works quite nicely, I think. Yeah, so we've got that one folded. So we'd need as well, I think I'd want some shadow underneath here, so I can pop some chalk pastel around here to bring that out. Put some shadow there, and that's quite fun. Got quite a harsh line there, so I'm just going to blend it out and move it around and get it a bit softer around the edge and a bit more blended out around that edge. That works quite nicely. I also think I might just darken this side up a little bit. Always work on the principle that less is more, or at least start off with less than you think you're going to need, because you can always go back and add more when it comes to shadow, or highlight for that matter. You can't always take it away. It's not always so easy to remove, depending on what medium you've used. Okay, so I do want some highlights, and I am going to pop the highlights around the outside edge here, I think. And I'm going to be very quick and very messy about it, because I just want that feeling that there might be a highlight here, that these are catching the light. And I'm going to do the same, perhaps not in every aura around these, but just in some of them, as if we're catching the light in different places. She says going over everyone there. This is not my neatest dotting exercise, but I think you'll get the idea. After all, it's not my neatest drawing either, looking at it. We'll be fine. So I think that would work quite nicely. The other thing I wanted to do, just clean my pen, tip of my pen off, is I was thinking about just using the gel pen to perhaps draw an aura inside my hearts. So I think that looks really nice, because it's so bright and white against the black. Perhaps I'll pop some white at the ends of these ones and see if I like that or not. And I actually think I do. These really do need to be re-inked in there. And so I'm putting a larger dot towards the end of these, to the curved end, and then two smaller ones underneath. There's rhythm to it. Oh, let's do along here as well. There we go. So that adds those little spots of highlight as well. This one, interesting. I'm not quite sure how we're going to get this. Definitely going to have some shadow where these overlap. So you can see there and there. So let me just do that. I missed a piece of some chalk out there, but there was enough on this tortillon to be able to add the shadow like that. So that really brings those out and lifts them up. And that little bit of highlight along the top as well. Perhaps 5 dots at the top, 3 in the next one, and so on down. To create a kind of wedge shape, perhaps. A little triangle there. I Didn't quite manage here because I would have. The problem being that I've put them in the aura as well, but that's fine. But that little bit of sparkle, a little bit of white there just lifts that. So that works quite nicely. At the bottom, I'd be tempted to add some shadow here that perhaps goes across these areas. It's sort of like it's trying to be consistent about where we put the shadow and still bringing out some texture. So let me have a look at that. She says finding one of these. My note to self is I need some Marmite. And I need to get some paper tortillons. I think. May have some somewhere. First dig and delve in my stash, I think is the phrase. I'm just going to put some white dots where I want the highlights to be on these more than anything. This diva dance is fun to do, but it can be just awkward to work out where you want to put the shadows. I think you just have to treat it like a pattern, like I've done with the other one in some way. I could be wrong. I think we've each got our own way of doing things. So there we are. We have a page of Kruffle variations. I haven't done anything with this one because essentially it would be similar to what you can either approach by putting shadow along the line so it's almost like it's folded up, or you can approach it with shadows in various places, you know, to get that going and highlight. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. Different way of using arches, but also it's a way you can use any arch variations that you may already have made. So I did that with this one here, but trying different shapes. I haven't finished exploring the possibility of shapes here, but there's always that option to do that. I also didn't add any shadow to this one, did I? But it's whatever you can manage to come up with. Should work here as long as you follow the basic the basic way of completing the aura ring that completes the pattern, and just enjoy and have fun. And if something goes wrong, just go with it, repeat it as if it's part of the pattern, and you never know, you may come up with a completely new pattern that's uniquely yours, which you can share with the world or keep it guardedly to yourself. I tend to share, which is fine, because as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing really truly unique in this world, and people work with things the way they'd like to work with them. I like how those white hearts in the middle, that really does set those shapes off, doesn't it? Try that on some of these semicircles here and see how that works. Just putting my hand in wet ink. Haven't smudged it though. I think that does bring those out as well. She's really quite nice. And tell you what I also like to do with some diva dance is I do like to put some white dots in some of those little areas. So it creates a whole different kind of feel to them. It's almost like you've got little pearls stuck in them. Little eyes peeking out from the depths of a little cave. Yeah, I really am in the macabre and eerie today. So I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to say thank you for joining me. I hope you've gained something from this and that you'll give these variations a go and use them in your own art. I don't know whether they'll appear in any of my art, time will tell, but they're in my sketchbook, and I have discovered things like I can collage with paper and have these rough edges and still draw over them. and it now looks like graffiti on an ancient wall. So possibly, but something else to be going on with, to keep on trying and learning. So take care of yourselves, enjoy the rest of your day, and look after yourselves and be creative. And I'll see you in the next video, hopefully. Bye-bye.